everyone, and welcome to this conversation presented by White House Custom Color. I'm Jed Toffer. Thanks for listening. You know, my wife Vicki and I have owned and operated our photography studio, V Gallery, for 20 years now. White House has been our lab for the last 16 of those years, and we could not be happier. White House is a family-run business, just like ours. If you haven't already, check them out at WHCC.com. And if you want to drop me a line, feel free to email me at jed@WHCC.com. I know a lot of amazing photographers. I've met people who do things that absolutely blow my mind. And most of them are also good people. I enjoy hanging out with them at various conventions and shows, mostly when we go out for dinner, of course. And then there are a handful of people that are truly great. I believe Dan McClanahan is one of those. He's an amazing artist, but he's an even better dad. And yes, in my case, that also means friend. He has great wisdom, and he's able to put really big thoughts into just a few words. I always look forward to my time with Dan. Sit back, listen, and you'll see why. Do this. Give me an intro.
Okay.
And tell me who you are and where you're at and what you do and your favorite color.
30 seconds, 20 minutes.
Somewhere between there.
Oh, cool.
You have between 30 seconds and 20 minutes.
My name is Dan McClanahan from Ames, Iowa. I have been a photographer for 10 years now, which makes me feel like I finally made it to say. I've been married for almost 11 years. I've got 2 kids. That's kind of the focal point of my life right now, at least what I value the most with my free time, which is interesting because before we had kids, our job was kind of that as a couple. So it's been fun to figure out that there's stuff in life that I care about infinitely more than I thought I cared about my job.
Is that right?
That's a whole nother topic. But yeah.
That's interesting though. So you would say that before the children, your the thing that you filled your time with was your work.
Largely.
Mm-hmm.
Work and friends and relationships, but yeah. So we've transitioned our business. We began as wedding photographers, as many do, because that's the market that comes naturally to young people.
Yeah.
You have a lot of friends getting married and they say, hey, shoot my wedding.
Right.
So we built our business on that and did that for 6 or 7 years.
Uh-huh.
And then we quit when we had kids. And during that time, I kind of transitioned into senior photography and commercial photography. And now I do those 2 things, about 50-50, depending on the time of year. So I'll do ad campaigns, travel around some for that, and then we have a portrait studio where we shoot seniors, and we're just trying to introduce families this year.
How's that going?
It's a blast and a challenge.
Mm-hmm.
I never understood them before I had my own. I was like, who would shoot families? That seems like the worst. Dealing with kids? I didn't used to like kids very much.
Until you had,
yeah,
until you had some.
I know. I didn't have the tolerance for them, and now I love them.
Yeah. So not just your own, but you're drawn to children in
I'll
general
go to the
now.
playground and end up playing tag with a bunch of random kids.
Yes.
I don't know, just because I'm an adult there and they're excited to interact with an adult. Yes.
I do that too. I lose every time. Yeah. My 6-year-old is infinitely faster than I am. I thought it wasn't that way. He wanted to race a few months ago, and I was like, okay. And so I was like, I'm going to give him a little head start. And he just took off like a rocket.
That's awesome. They're amazing. Their strength to weight ratio is nuts too.
Oh, his in particular, he's ripped. He's solid, and he's like one of those kids that just is built that way. You know, he's got abs. He's 6. He's got abs. He's got cut muscles.
Dude, I'm 33 and I still don't have abs.
I have an ab.
You only need one if it's a strong one. As long as it can get you out of the chair.
It's one big strong ab that gets me where I need to go. So yeah, that's interesting that
Quality
kids
over
did
quantity.
that to you. You didn't see it coming, I imagine.
What the impact?
The kids would, the impact that they would have.
No, I did not. That was a very pleasant surprise.
Yes.
Honestly, I was a little bit terrified of the responsibility
Beforehand.
But
What's it like on the other side now?
oh, it's awesome. It's a ton of work,
Right.
and it stretches you in ways you didn't know you were capable of being stretched, from stress and physical, like lack of sleep when they're fresh, but at the same time that's balanced out by joy and all these feelings you didn't know you could experience. So it's pretty cool.
Has it brought you and Alex closer, do you think?
I would say yes and no. I would say the amount of time we have to spend together as a couple, free of distractions, has diminished greatly, but the amount of respect that we have for one another has increased greatly.
Oh.
Because I get to watch her be a mom, and she watches me be a dad, and that's what we're doing with the time that used to be our side-by-side time.
And
So-
you both, do you think you're good at it? You and her are both good at parenting?
She thinks I'm good at it. I wouldn't say that I
Well, then
feel,
you think, and you
feel
think,
good at it. I think
but you
she's
think
good at it.
she's good at it. Like
Oh, yeah.
you each think the other is really
Like
good at parenting.
from the moment that our first child was laid on her chest, she just evolved into 2.0. It was crazy. Like mama bear instincts came out of nowhere that I've never seen in her before.
I saw that happen,
Like
yeah.
a fierce willingness to do anything for this child, because
Yeah.
all of a sudden the responsibility changes all of your priorities.
Yeah. I watched it happen in my own life too. It's phenomenal.
Yeah.
So regarding your business versus your personal life, they're so intermingled, right? Like they're so interwoven, aren't they? Because it's you and her that are working in the business, and then you have the two kids that have been kind of thrown into the mix because you had them,
Yeah.
and now you have all of it to juggle at the same time.
It's a lot. It's been a challenge, especially lately with two, but
What suffers?
I think whatever you allow to suffer, it really forces you to show where your priorities are.
Yeah.
So I would say we've erred on prioritizing the kids over the business.
Wise.
Yeah, yeah.
I think so.
So I wouldn't say anything has suffered.
Mm-hmm.
I guess where we're at right now is we're realizing the need for more date nights.
Yeah. How do you do that?
Get my parents to watch our kids more. Or find another couple that has kids and like trade with them.
You have to be intentional.
Yeah, you have to be very
You
intentional.
got to make it happen.
We're actually going to have one on Monday
What are you going to do?
for our anniversary. I don't know. We used to do cool stuff, and now a fun night out is like just being alone for an hour. Like, let's eat a pizza and not talk for like 15 minutes and then talk. It was funny though. After the first kid, the first date night we had, it was like 3 months in.
Yeah.
So we go out, she got dolled up, we're sitting down to dinner, and then like 10 minutes in, we're both like, I wonder what Nova's doing right now. We miss her. So we turned on the Nest Cam and like saw if we could creep on her. And then we're like, let's just go home and hold her.
Is that what you did?
Well, we were out for a couple hours, and then we went back.
And then you were like, yeah, we're going back.
Part of that was because we missed her, and part of that was like our first time leaving her with another person, and
Yeah.
you're nervous, and you
Yeah.
want to make sure they,
Yeah.
don't die.
Right. Right. Number one rule.
Keep
Yeah,
them alive.
Keep my kid alive. Wow. You have me thinking about my children.
There you go. It's a good thing to think about.
Tell me this. In the current... We were talking earlier about how things are different now than they used to be. And now you have kids. Go 20 years back in your mind, and now go 20 years forward in your mind. What do you hope for our kids?
Gosh. Well, I think my ultimate hope is just to, if we teach them to have strong character and be able to troubleshoot life on their own, they'll be great. I don't think there is any preparing them for what the world's going to be like in the future.
Because we don't know.
Right? Like it's easy to over-shelter kids, which I think I've seen a lot of that, and it results in, rebellion once they're out from under your thumb. Mm-hmm. So I'm really interested in being, I need to be a parent and teach authority, but I also want to have a relationship of open communication so I can help them navigate through stuff and be a part of that process versus just telling them what to do and then leaving them to their own devices to navigate through it. But I think critical thinking and assurance, and they'll be great.
One of my favorite quotes from somebody is, he says, "You can't make your kids safe.
No.
But you can make them strong."
That's a good way to put it.
That's
you have no idea what they're going to encounter.
Well, that's what I just heard you say, right?
Yeah, except you said it better.
Well,
I'd never thought that through before, actually.
That's from Jordan Peterson.
He's a smart dude.
Yeah.
You said think 20 years back, and that was terrifying because that was middle school, which was the worst. And then 20 years forward, I've never thought that either. I tend to not think about stuff as much as you probably think I do. I'm like a reactionary more than a planner.
Very surface level dude.
I don't know about that, but I'm not like, I'm going to set goals for 20 years from now.
Oh, well, I don't do that either. That's just a question that came to my mind based on the fact that we were talking about children.
Yeah.
20 years was an arbitrary number. It really could be 5 years or 7 years or 8.5 years.
I guess what I witnessed from my upbringing was parents have either the power to push kids their way or empower them through their mistakes by showering them with love and not saying it's okay to be a horrible person, but helping them grow through things. Mm-hmm. And I want to be tight with my kids, hopefully. Mm-hmm. Because that's the ultimate goal. I think before I had them, I was more interested in the idea of someday having grandkids than I was in the idea of having kids.
You skipped over the kids part?
Yeah, dude. Skip all that work and cut to the fun.
You really did have an aversion. But now aren't you finding now that the kids, that having the kids is the fun?
It's the fun. And it makes you grow in strange and mysterious ways.
Like what?
Like everything naughty that my toddler does makes me think, oh, dang, I think she got that from me. And it teaches you a lot about your own bad habits and behaviors and the way that, because they're sponges, man.
Yeah.
So it's humbling.
Yes.
And I don't know.
I
don't know what I'm trying to say.
No, my son takes all that stuff from me, and then I get in trouble for it when he projects it.
Yeah.
To my wife.
Mini Jed, go to your room. Big Jed, get in here. Yeah. We gotta talk.
Yeah. I've heard stuff like that many times. So, what's the most challenging part for you, being a dad now, with your business? You're a dad. You're an entrepreneur. What's the hardest part of that?
Time management.
Okay. What do you do?
What do I do? So I've always been, like I mentioned earlier, more reactionary.
Yeah.
And you can't necessarily be that way when you have kids. Like, we've taken great steps to transition our business into business hours so that we can have family time. Every weekend, we don't work weekends unless it's like an extreme circumstance. And I only shoot 2 evenings a week at most.
Two evenings.
Sometimes none.
Right.
So starting, you shoot at sunset every night because it's easy peasy. Mm-hmm. But that's not sustainable for having relationships with people with normal day jobs, or for having a family if you want to see your kids. Mm-hmm. So it's forced me to up my game a lot and change my style quite a bit. I've really had to get awesome at lighting so I can shoot a senior at high noon in terrible light and have it turn out great. and it's not nearly as easy, but the result, I think, in contrast with a market of everyone shooting at sunset, has a lot of impact.
Because it's a different look.
Yeah. And it's also fun. So I guess we've been taking steps to try and structure our business to work in a time frame that matches our desired lifestyle versus letting the business dictate our lifestyle. That's the only way it works. Otherwise, you're a slave to this thing versus it being an enabler.
Right.
And I could go get a job with health insurance.
If you could.
And it would be a lot easier. I've been tempted.
In some ways, that grass does seem greener sometimes.
Yeah, but then I think about what that would be like to go back to a cubicle, 8 to 5, wearing khaki pants.
Right. Right. Right.
And I love my job. So
you said something that a lot of people have said, and I really want to just know a little bit more about it. So this is fairly practical, I think. But you mentioned the sunset's the easy time, right? Mm-hmm. Shooting a senior at high noon, sun straight up in the air is difficult, and learning how to do that. How do you do that?
How do you do that?
Yeah. What do you? Are there secrets? Are there tricks to the trade?
When you shoot at sunset, you can backlight your subject, you can front light your subject, and you can just play and have fun. Which I selfishly wish I could still do that
and not have to worry about it.
Yeah. Right. During midday, there's still great light. It just presents itself in small little pockets that you have to find. So it's been kind of fun because it's like, let's go outside with this outfit, and we have to explore for a few minutes and like find something that's going to work. And then that dictates what the picture is. So like reflecting off of a
building, you're over in the shade somehow, but it's reflecting off a building. I
do a lot of, like, in Iowa, we don't have cool buildings or rocks. We have fields and crops. Well, we've got some cool skies. I wouldn't live
like
anywhere
more
else.
Of a challenge then.
Yeah. So scrims are big.
What's a
scrim? A scrim is a piece of translucent material, like a bed sheet, that you put in between your subject and the sun, and it turns the harsh, nasty, unflattering light into perfect, beautiful light.
So who has to hold the scrim when you're out shooting? Do you have a mom come along, or do you have an assistant?
The last couple of years I've had an assistant. So it's either a guy that's a good friend that comes in the evening, or I'll make my employee come with us when we go outside to shoot an outfit during the daytime. So she's a very good scrim holder. One of the best, I'd say. I like to get the parents involved if they're there and they're willing, but that's not always. I don't have rules on who should come on a shoot. So sometimes it's just the kid, and sometimes it's the kid and their parents and their grandparents and half of their cousins, and it's like an entourage, and that's a blast too. But if someone's along, I won't bring my employee. I'll let her get stuff done in the office. If I have a dad and a brother that both want to help, I'll give them stuff to hold, because then they feel more involved in the shoot and they take more ownership over the product.
Right, of course. They have kind of more of a vested interest in.
Yeah, especially the dad. Like, if you can get them in on seeing the creative process and seeing how complex and like the problems you're solving, it gives them a lot more respect for the end result.
For what you're doing too.
Because typically moms and the kids are amped, and then the dads are the ones that are like, I have to pay for this. Where's the value in it?
Right.
And you can show them that if they're on the shoot.
Right.
And they're usually the ones that turn into the biggest fans afterwards, which is cool.
Right. So they're supporting more and more purchases and higher sales, really.
Yeah.
Right.
It's in my class tomorrow, so don't post this tonight, but
I won't.
I had one dad, I had him holding a strobe with the gel on it to be a fake sun, because it was an overcast day and we're trying to get some bright, happy shots. And there's a shot. He's in the background holding this light, waving at the camera, really small, and he's out of focus. And they bought that as a wall portrait, and his specific instructions were, don't Photoshop me out.
He wanted to be
I want to be in there forever so I can remember that sun was me.
So you can kind of see him if you're looking for him,
you
but otherwise...
you can totally see him. It's awesome. It's awesome. He was one of my favorite dads ever. He was such a character. He was really involved.
Don't take me out. I want to remember that I was the sun.
And then every single image I took using the light that he was holding, he's like, oh, that light has my son in it. Or that picture has my son in it. We got to put that one in the album.
Yeah, because he knew it was his son.
Yeah, it was sweet. His son on his son. It was like a double entendre.
It was his son too. That's perfect. That's a perfect example. What sort of challenges do you need to really look in the face here this year and moving forward?
In moving forward,
Yeah, like I know you can't tell the future again, but you have to sort of anticipate.
yeah, what's been piquing my interest lately is doing what I've avoided doing for 10 years and getting involved in marketing via more traditional means, like advertising and doing auctions and stuff like that, just to try and get a more consistent year-round business. I need to get more heavily involved in my community again, because I've been a little bit of a hermit for 3 years because I've been home as much as possible with the babies. And then craft-wise, I don't know. I'm constantly in a mindset of wanting to improve. So the specific way in which that's happening is always changing based on, like, I get bored of what I'm shooting and try something different just to mix it up because it makes me like my job. But
where do you go to be inspired?
This is kind of probably an unusual answer, but I find it less helpful to be inspired by looking at other people's pictures and more helpful to listen to music and watch movies and be interested in humans. Something about our industry that I've noticed is there tends to be trends that pop up, and one person is successful with a trend, and then it becomes the thing that everybody does for a while, and then it oversaturates and it dies, and then there's a new trend. And I think the way around that, or at least this is how I perceive things, is if you make a session less about a concept, whether that be a style or a type of lighting that you want to do or whatever, you make it all based around your subject, and you study them and you try and dissect who they are and like their personality and their vitality, and then you use techniques that are appropriate to dignifying that and then making that awesome, and that's the basis of the shoot.
So for a senior, does that require getting to know them or building a rapport? Or
I don't do consultations anymore, but I do send them a questionnaire, and then I have a phone call with them to get a general gauge on their interests and stuff. But then the first 15 minutes of the shoot, just talking, I can usually figure out.
Right.
I'm pretty good at reading people, I think, which is a gift I didn't realize I had.
Yeah.
But I can understand from the person and my interaction with them, and then how they interact with their parent and how they talk about themselves. It gives a pretty clear picture of the type of person they are. So I tend to avoid mood boards and all that, and just focus on the person and interact with them, and then that's how you get a great picture. Because every human, when you're shooting an individual, and every couple or family has a really unique chemistry, I guess, for lack of a better word.
So same strategy with the family even.
Yeah, family, I mean, you have to pose more because you're trying to flatter people. But if you're doing like the fun shots, like if I leave space for them to exist in the way that they naturally would if they're comfortable, the body language falls into a place that has more, you can just read it. Like rather than trying to pose someone properly, which I was doing for a couple of years, I learned the pictures look a lot better if I back off and give them space to sink into comfort and make them comfort more through the interaction. They'll sink into comfort versus me telling them what to do and trying to micromanage stuff. So I love posing to make people look better, but you have to kind of micro pose within the macro of how they exist. So I never get bored because every human is different. So when someone walks in, it's a chance for me to interact with someone and get to know them and try and figure out who they are, and you can learn from everybody. So it might not be a session that you post online and everyone goes, oh my gosh, that's awesome. But it might be, those are usually the images that the client values the most, because you've captured the true character of someone that is the loved one of someone else, and that's their family history. And that has way more value, especially long term, than the number of likes I get on Instagram.
It's so great to hear a parent say, you got her, you got him.
Yeah.
Right. Like when they see the image and they tear up sometimes, or they get emotional, and and you can tell by even the expression on their face that they recognize that look, or they recognize that expression or that pose even, right?
So this is when I knew, I didn't realize this was something I did. And then we had one of my very first seniors back when I was not very good. Sorry if you're listening. But that's what the mom said. She's like, you captured her in this picture. And then there's 6 siblings. So I shot the first 4. And the same thing, every shoot there's one picture where the mom was like, that picture is this kid. Right. And they're all super different. Like one was with a ring flash in a weird basement with a skateboard, and one was like laughing in a field. And then they moved away to Nashville, but they came back with the last 2 just because that, like, you can get a pretty picture from any number of people, but getting truth conveyed in an image is something that I think is a little more unique. So
yeah, I think capturing an image and capturing the essence of somebody they're 2 different things, you know.
And the casual viewer on Instagram doesn't know that person, won't know. They can't read if that's a true representation of the person or not.
No, they would have.
They're
no
just
idea.
judging according to society standards of beauty and like, is the light nice and is the composition cool, which is fine. I love that stuff too, but I think it goes a lot deeper than what we tend to talk about.
So considering that we don't know the future, which we've established time and again, both on and off this podcast, what are your hopes for your business in 5 years?
So to be honest with you,
10 years, again, that's an arbitrary number.
I had some goals at the beginning, and then I accomplished them all. And now anything that happens that's good it's like a pleasant surprise. Does that make sense? So I wanted to get clients and go full time. I wanted to have a studio space. I got those things. I wanted to win an award. So I did that once, and it was awesome. But once you kind of go through that process and attain that stuff, you can end up in a cycle where you're chasing that forever. And I almost think about the guy in Napoleon Dynamite that's like, I bet I can throw this football over them mountains. Like every time something great happens to me as far as a success, I never take it for granted, because if that becomes an expectation, it's really easy to have disappointment. And I've seen that happen time and time again in our industry. So my primary hope and dream with my business is just to become more deeply ingrained in my community and build deeper relationships and continue to get better at my craft and serve those people, because that's where I want to live my life.
You want to stay there?
Yep.
Yeah, you don't have aspirations to move.
No, I mean, easily, I have a lot of peers that are like, you should move to New York because you could have a lot more commercial work, because I have the skill set that's good enough to do that. But from the experiences I've had flying to New York or flying to LA to do a big time job, they always leave me dying to come home.
Why? Why is your community so important?
Because I think that's how humans are designed to experience life fully, is in community. Like, you can be a lone wolf and do your thing and be super successful, but now I'm in my 30s and all my friends that did that are moving back because they're having kids, and they're
like,
right?
They're coming back.
They're coming back. They're like, oh dang, we have kids, and our perspective just pulled a 180, and we need to have them closer to grandparents. And I don't know. I'm big on, my family was close growing up, which probably plays a part of that. Like, my grandparents live in Ames still, and they come over every Thursday night and sit in my porch and listen to the Ames Municipal Band play John Philip Sousa marches. And
is that right?
We get to hang out. Yeah. I love it. I love the fact that
it sounds so Americana.
That my kids know their great grandparents.
Yeah.
And they're going to have memories with them, you know? Because I had great grandparents all over, and I vaguely remember a couple of them from meeting them like two times, but I don't know. You can't get that back ever. And I think that's what shapes a person's character more than seeming success. Because as soon as you have success, it goes away quickly. It's like a flash duration. It flashes and then it decays.
Well, then you have to also ask yourself, what is success?
Exactly. And I think culturally, you know, it's being good at your job or accumulating wealth or whatever. But all of that in my 10 years of experience is very exciting, but very fleeting. And if you put all of your dreams into that, it's easy to end up unfulfilled.
I feel like you just opened the door for like 3 more podcasts.
Yeah, there you go.
So come back at some point for part 2, part 3, part 4 with Dan McClanahan.
Oh, man. No one wants to hear that. But
Well, we'll see. We'll let them be the judge of that.
I'd sit here and stare at your beard for hours. I'm jealous. I got bald patches in mine.
Oh, yeah. We discussed that the other night, too. My gifting is that I was given a really good beard at a young age and didn't have to do anything for it.
You have not wasted that gift. You're inspiring a whole new generation.
Listen, I appreciate this. You've been hard to track down these last couple years. I've wanted to talk to you face to face for quite some time.
Well, I've been to your place. You've been to my place.
I know.
We've always been gone.
I know. We finally made it happen.
Cheers.
Thanks
to
for
that.
doing it.
My pleasure. I sound like a Chick-fil-A employee when I say that.